Fathers, in honor of Father's Day, what was your don't tell your mother about this moment? Story 1. I'll speak for my dad here. He had just gotten a really crappy motorcycle while we were visiting his parents at their farm in a semi-desert area. Note, he's never ridden a motorcycle before, and his youngest brother died in a motorcycle accident. I remember coming outside in the late afternoon and I saw my dad absolutely covered in scrapes, cuts, and bruises all over his body, but mostly on his legs that had been bare. I freaked out and he assured me he was fine and explained that he had fallen down a mountain nearby while on his motorcycle. I don't remember if the bike was salvageable, but I do remember him turning to me, putting on a very serious face and saying, "Absolutely do not tell your grandmother about this." Even at like 50, he was that scared of his mother. Bonus story, I was at the beach with my dad since I was staying with him for the weekend, divorced parents. We went swimming in the ocean near this rock formation that jutted out of the sea no more than 100 meters off the shoreline. We went in when it was high tide, turning into low tide, and we got swept out by a riptide that formed around the rock. I got out and started screaming for help and saying that my dad was still stuck in the ocean. No one could see him, and I was so scared he had drowned. Then someone said, "Is that him over there?" and pointed about 200 meters down the beach. Sure enough, there was my dad walking toward us in his Lumo green swim trunks. I ran to him and we met in the middle and fiercely hugged because we had both thought we had lost the other forever. As we were packing up to leave shortly after, I looked at him and asked, "I don't have to tell Mama about this, do I?" And he snorted in a "oh dear God no" manner and said, "Please do not tell your mother about this." Considering I've almost drowned 3 times under and broke my collarbone under my father's care, I can understand his desire to keep this under wraps too. You and your dad sound tougher than goddamn steel. I mean, fell down a effing mountain? That gotta be some Captain America type crap there. It doesn't hurt that badly, only if you keep hitting crap on your way down. Source, fell down a mountain at age 12. Twice. I fell off my Everest 3 years ago, got 2 meters up and slipped and tumbled down to the start flag with my mates chuckling and laughing their butts off back where I fell. It takes a special person to fall down a mountain and brush it off. I would be that person. I've flipped right over my bike handles, landed on my face, got up laughing, and looked at people who watched and wheezed out, "Whoopsie, no biggie, I'm good." I was not good. I would not be good for a solid week, but you would never know from how I limped away. Story 2. Not a father, but a son. We forgot my passport during vacation and were already at the border station when we noticed. My dad then said that we won't turn back, but that he will figure something out. Turns out he smuggled me successfully across 3 border crossings without my passport. Before we arrived at home, he told me not to tell my mom about this. How the hell did he manage that? Stuff you in a suitcase? Nope, we passed through European borders prior to Schengen. He had a regular ID card and a driver's license, both belonged to him. He showed the border officials his ID card on top of his driver's license and put them in such a way that the border official would see that he's holding them 2 documents that look very similar. One ID card for him, one for me. Only one border official even bothered to look at the ID card plus driver's license, but it seemed that he only looked for the expiration date and gave them straight back to my dad. If they caught us, it would have probably ended badly. So a bit of a long story here. Ex-forces stationed in Germany. Mate gave me a lift home for Xmas, dropped me off after the ferry crossing at my sister's house around 40 minutes from Dover. Cheers, mate. See you in a couple of weeks. Christmas goes by. Get my crap together. Balls. Can't find my passports. Proper pooping it at this point. Text my mate, "Please check your car." Texts back, "Nothing there." What am I going to do? Right, they hardly ever check at Dover going out. Mate picked me up, and the plan was that if all went wrong, my sister would come and collect me from Dover, but my mate would carry on as he still had to report for duty. Get to Dover, nervous as hell, don't get checked, make it through the first checkpoint. Get round the corner where they issue tickets, no problems, we've effing done it. I'm pumped at this point. So mate passes me all the stuff they give you, and I go to tuck it next to my seat. In doing so, I see something purple between the seat and the center tunnel. Interesting. Rummage there, lo and effing behold, it's my damn passport. Luckily we got through, but I'd have been bloody furious had it not been, and I found out it was in his car the whole time. I asked him if he would have coughed up, and he said, "Nah, I'd probably have burnt it. So much interesting story there, but all I'm taking away from this is the phrase proper poop in it. Going to be adding that one to my lexicon from here on out. Also, this just goes to show that the best heists are just really low-key. Act like nothing is wrong and suddenly you're just getting away with stuff. Not that you all should do that. I mean, I'm not your dad. Do whatever you want. Just know I officially am stating don't do a crime. Story 3. Not exactly because we were caught in the act, but here we go. When I was 10 years old, I was in a head-on car crash with my dad and my little brother. My dad ended up with 2 shattered feet, and he was in a wheelchair after getting out of the hospital. Now, my dad did stereotypical dad things around the house before this happened, and being stuck in a wheelchair was difficult for him. One day, while my mom was out, it was just the 2 of us in the house. Suddenly, I'm being called by my dad to go grab the lawnmower and the trimmer. My dad had decided to cut the grass while in his wheelchair. So 10-year-old me does as she told and grabs what's needed to be grabbed and plus everything in it's as told. I moved what needed to be moved into the garden, but there's one problem. Dad can't get into the garden in his chair. The entrance is just too narrow. So my father, being the reckless and mischievous man that he is, comes up with a plan. He's going to lift himself up using the garden wall. I'm going to collapse the chair and move it through, then reopen it so he can sit down. The pressure is on. Little 10-year-old me is ready to go. He gets himself up and we manage it in one try. After that, cutting the grass together was fairly simple, but by this point we'd attracted the attention of the neighbors. My neighbor from across the road was frantic when she saw what we were doing. Husbands from the other households were joking that my dad was making them look bad. Edit, spelling, edit. So this kind of blew up. Thanks for you all for the awards. I'm going to show my dad all the comments tomorrow. I'm sure he'll appreciate talking about his balls. Your father's determination scares me. Balls of steel, I tell ya. I'm surprised the wheelchair didn't collapse with the weight of his balls. Gotta love when a story devolves and just talking about dad balls. Also, strange how that is a compliment. Like, folks, I've got to ask you, would you want literal large balls, big old mandarin oranges between your legs? Is that an appealing trait for you? Do you want to look like you're smuggling coconuts in your trousers? Because I've got to tell you, I don't see the appeal. Story 4. When my son was 6, I was playing Grand Theft Auto late at night. He wakes up and comes to the living room, tells me he can't sleep, and asks if he can watch me play. I say he can, but not to tell his mom. He agrees with a big smile. Maybe after about an hour, he is playing and I'm watching and helping him. He can't stop laughing, driving into people, and running from the cops. I was telling him to watch out for the 5-0, and he asks me what that means, so I tell him it's the cops. He just shrugs and keeps playing. Now fast forward about a week later, and we are all driving in the car. All I hear is a scream of, "Dad, watch out, it's the 5-0!" And I absolutely start crying from laughing so hard, all the while his mother is questioning where he learned that. He just says, YouTube. She found out later that I let him play GTA, but I hope the memory of that is as special to him as it is to me. One of my gaming mates has a kid who pipes up in the background sometimes playing the Switch, and the crap he's picking up from his old man is hilarious. Bowser, get wrecked! It never ceases to amaze me the things he hears and then repeats. The story reminds me, back when GTA was the new hot thing to play, my husband had the game. He worked an early work schedule and would pick the kids up from school. One day I had an appointment in the afternoon, so I came home from work early to find him playing GTA while my then around 11-year-old daughter was explaining how to do something or other in the game. Walking in to my darling daughter saying, "Yeah, you just kill him and run," in an excited voice, leaning over his chair eagerly as a whole new paradigm. Later I figured out he set up a way for them to play together, and they'd play until they heard me locking my car out front. Edit. Shh. Don't tell them I figured it out. They both still think it was a secret. I think we now have a case against violence in video games being bad. Stuffy old politicians who think computers are powered by devil magic might think they turn kids into criminals, but as it turns out, they are a wonderful way of bonding with a child. I mean, if the parents are also criminals, I guess the kids will bond with their parents and become criminals too, but at least they'll be doing it together. Story 5. In my second year of college, my best friend took their own life. We were all pretty heartbroken, so my mom and dad drove up from the next province to be with me. My dad, being a great cook, decided he would cook my roommates/friends and I a nice dinner to bring everyone together during a bleak moment. My dad and I ended up getting completely crap-faced, as one tends to do during heartbreaking times. He got embarrassed at his drunken state and snuck out the back door and jumped in a cab without saying goodbye. I was upset he disappeared like that, but he also still had the car keys I needed so I could drive my friends and I to the funeral the next day. I called him and asked him to get out of the cab and that I would meet him at whatever street corner he was at, which he did. When I found him, he was sitting in the stoop of an apartment building, puking and crying. I rolled up and together we staggered home drunk and crying, arm in arm. When we got back to my apartment, he was still embarrassed, so he asked to sleep in the car. I said okay, grabbed him a blanket, Pringles, and a Gatorade for midnight munchies. I went back inside, and no sooner did I sit down did I get a text from him saying he was cold and wanted to come in. I went and got him from the car, and he was covered in Pringle crumbs. Like, covered. I dragged him up the sketchy spiral staircase to my apartment, and the last thing he said before he went inside and to bed was, "God, your stairs are like effing Hogwarts, man. Please don't tell your mother." And he passed out. Man cooks a mean buffet steak. Good man, good man. He's one solid dude, that's for sure. Story 6. One night I was enjoying a small bit of ice cream after my 4-year-old daughter went to bed. She came downstairs and caught me. So I offered her a small bite, but since she was supposed to be in bed, I said, "Don't tell Mom." She assured me she wouldn't. My wife wouldn't have cared anyway, but it was a fun little game to play. After she went up to bed and I was down on the couch, she snuck into the master bedroom where Mom was resting. She told Mom that I had let her have some ice cream and she was afraid of sugar bugs, so could she please brush her teeth again? My wife just laughed at me the next day. Little crap ratted me out to brush her teeth, something she doesn't like doing anyway. And here I am, praying the toothbrush out of my 4-year-old's hands before she wears down all her enamel and trying to get her to stop eating Elmo training toothpaste. And Elmo toothpaste is absolutely delicious, according to my 3-year-old and 18-month-old. Don't lie, we know you eat that stuff by the spoonful. Is the Elmo toothpaste the stuff that tastes kind of like bubblegum? Man, was that around even when I was a kid? Because I remember something like that, and yeah, it clearly works because I'm pretty damn diligent about brushing my teeth now. Good work, Elmo, you delicious toothpaste-making muppet. Story 7. My dad and I, around 5 years old, were on our way home from a car show when we were getting followed by the cops. My dad struggled to put on his seatbelt quickly in hopes he wouldn't get a ticket. Unfortunately, we got pulled over. This might have been the first time ever that I saw a cop this close up, let alone speak to one. I was a deer in headlights the whole time. Well, with a cop on either side of the car, the officer leaned in and asked my dad why he was swerving. That deed told the cops I was tickling him. The cops looked at me straight in the eyes and asked if this was true. I was too scared to say anything and just nodded yes. The officer smiled and said, "Never do that again while your father is driving, okay?" They left without any further words, and my dad gave me the lecture of, "Don't tell your mom." 1. Hang out with your dad at the car show. 2. Lie to the cops for him. 3. Keep quiet to your mom. Sounds like you tickle off the boxes for being a great son/daughter. Lie to the cops for your sake. I don't have them. I laughed so hard when I read that D told. I don't know you, but I somehow pictured your face emphasizing the word D. Story 8. When my wife's at work, I will take my daughter, 4 years old, out for breakfast. Then we will go on a small adventure around a shop of her choice and pretend whatever she wants. Last time, we went to a car part shop and rolled tires around as we were freeing the rollings from monsters. So far, my wife doesn't believe her when she later on grasses me up. That's the only thing pre-COVID I miss doing. This brought back so many good memories of my dad. Thank you. Good man right there. Story 9. Dad was putting new roof shingles on. I was probably 3, maybe 4. I asked if I could help. He said if I could climb the ladder. Sure. I was always climbing, so that was no issue. Climbed right on up and started handing him shingles. It would have been a don't tell your mother moment had she not come home from grocery shopping. After several back and forths of, "Where are you?" and "Up here, Mom," she figured it out and flipped out. "What is he doing on the roof?" Edit. I'm not a dad, so I posted on behalf of my dad. My dad always wanted a son. I'm the last of 4 girls, so I was a huge tomboy. Whatever he was fixing, I was right there. My mom gave up on these things after a while. Fell off so many things because of this. Jesus, Dad. I'm not a fan of roofs, but only because my body is a fan of being clumsy. But I will say, my dad did let me help him on the roof when I was a kid, but mostly when it was winter. Here in Minnesota, if you fall off the roof at the right time during the winter, you're just making a cartoonish impression in the snow and laughing. At least until you feel the wet snow in your butt crack. Story 10. Daughter speaking for her father. In high school, everybody was always busy at work or club, so I was the first one in my household to get home nearly every single day. Dad was having money troubles that he didn't want to disclose to anyone, so he paid me $5 a month to take the bank statement letter from the mailbox and hide it from my stepmom until he got home. It was the closest thing I got to an allowance. P.S. I have no idea what the money trouble was, by the way. I was always the don't ask, don't tell person, so that's why he trusted me the most about this. Clearly, all this bribery was causing him money problems. He's bribing everyone in town to pretend he doesn't have money problems. Each time he bribes one person, more people find out and he has to bribe them too. He's like a one-mad pyramid scheme. I call it a Ramses. Story 11. Not a real don't tell your mother about this moment, but when I was little, my dad had a workshop in the garage where he'd do woodwork. I'd come out and talk to him while he worked, and he'd let me sit in the car that was parked in the garage. He framed it as something that was so bad and edgy, and we couldn't tell my mom, and I was 5, so I believed it and felt so cool without actually doing anything wrong or dangerous. He was just sitting there, menacingly. That's really clever parenting. Aw, this story's really cute and reminds me of hanging around the woodshop with my dad when he was doing stuff. He taught me a lot in those early days. Hell, he taught me plenty about accidentally slicing into my fingers with tools. I watched him do it plenty of times, and as I got older, I did it plenty myself. Like father, like son. Beautiful. Story 12. Not a father, but a story about mine. One day I decided to pull a sick day at school and came downstairs and saw that my dad was making a coffee. I asked him what he was doing and why he wasn't at work, and he said, I could ask you the same question. We stood in silence for a moment, and he said, I won't tell your mom if you won't. We had a good laugh about it, and he let me have the day off. I had this moment with my sister not long ago. We both go to the same school and both had the idea to pull a sick day on the same day. I took the back way home, she took the normal way. Both of us walked into the front/back doors at the same time, walked into the kitchen as well. This meme sums it up. I pulled a big bro move and signed her note for the next day so parents wouldn't find out. Perk of being 18. Edit. Feel like I should add that I was in 12th grade and she was in 9th. We figured out that she had left 10 minutes earlier than I had, and that somehow resulted in near perfect timing. Like father, like son. Edit. I didn't think this would blow up. Thanks for all the upvotes. This is the highest I've ever gotten. Story 13. I took both kids out at around 13 to show them how to drive, just in big empty parking lots or in the neighborhood, but they loved it and I enjoyed a little secret with them for a while. Story 14. It was my weekend with my 15-year-old son. We had divorced when he was 10. We were at a pool party barbecue at my friend's condo complex, and I had brought a couple sodas for him. The dude cooking the chicken overcooked it and it was dry, and another friend had pilfered one of the Dr. Peppers, so my son needed something to drink. I suggested he go back to the condo and find something in the fridge. Then he pointed at the plastic pitcher with about a glass left of margarita. I said, okay, but don't tell your mom. I figured he would just take a mouthful to wash down the food, but nope, he pounded the whole thing. I was like, okay, well, there wasn't that much in there, so no biggie. I said, damn, dude, didn't think you were going to chug the whole thing. He was like, what, is there alcohol in it? I was like, yeah, duh, it's a margarita. He said, but you guys used to make us kids margaritas when you had people over the house. I said, yeah, virgin ones with just ice and the mixer and the blender, not the adult version with tequila in it. Well, next thing you know, he's super chatty, actually talking to all my friends like a normal outgoing person instead of his usual teenage introverted small talk. Problem was, it was Sunday and I had to take him back to his mom's that evening. Was planning on getting beat out about it, or she would find it hilarious. Honestly, it could have gone either way with her. I could never predict how she would take it. He played you like a champ. All that buildup about how the mom would react, and yet we get no reveal? Come on! I wanted to hear the part where the mom goes, no big deal. I've been slipping Baileys into his cereal every morning to help him lighten up at school. More seriously, don't drink, kids. You don't want to mess with chemicals like that when your brain is still forming permanent pathways. Story 15. Dad scratches the car after an idiot turned and rammed into us. He told me to keep it a secret, and he slid me a few singles to keep my mouth shut. But she found out anyway. LOL. You're getting paid? I understood that reference. Story 16. Nice try, Mom. Story 17. This last Christmas, my 4-year-old helped my wife wrap one of my gifts. It was late, so I was working. The next day, while my wife was at work, she came running through from her bedroom first thing and yelled excitedly, Daddy, Daddy, I helped wrap your gift. It's a surprise. It's a slushie maker. Honey, that's awesome, but you aren't supposed to tell me that. I know, but it's a slushie maker. If you know not to tell me, then why did you tell me? Because I'm just so excited to make slushies with you. I was crying with laughter at this point. I told her that it's an awesome gift, but to keep gifts secret. And I told her we wouldn't tell Mommy so she wouldn't be disappointed that I knew what it was. I ended up telling her that evening because it was just too funny and cute. Story 18. My dad taught me how to play throw rocks, where you toss a handful of rocks in the air directly above you and run away before they hit you. I was playing one with my cousin and got clunked on the head by a big one and bled all over my face and shirt collar. I went crying to Dad and he paid me $1 and a piece of gum to keep quiet about the throw rocks game and just tell my mom my cousin threw it at me. My relationship with my cousin has been irreversibly damaged since then because I lied to him and he never wanted to talk to me again, so we drifted apart. What flavor was the gum? Original juicy fruit. I wasn't allowed sweets at the time because I had hella cavities, so it was the first sweet thing I had in a while. It was the best 15 seconds of flavor of my life and worth losing my cousin's friendship. That's some pretty good gum, though. Ah, juicy fruit. What a terrible, terrible gum. Delicious for a moment, then flavorless and with a texture one might describe as, fine, I guess. Also, your cousin needs to get over that crap. Come on, kids gotta understand lying about friends to a parent to cover your butt. That's just kid code. Story 19. My dad, brother, and I went out to these dunes near where I live with bottle rockets. We each had an empty milk jug and each took like 20 bottle rockets for ammo. Then we ran around launching bottle rockets at each other. I was the youngest, which made me the hardest to hit, so I won the rocket war. But yeah, Mom never found out. Your hitbox needed to be nerfed. Story 20. My dad used to hoist my siblings and I to the ceiling in a garbage can with a come-along and swing us back and forth. Fun as hell, but don't tell your mother. With a come-along? What does that mean? Come-along is a type of ratcheting winch. Story 21. My dad cooked us old dinner as a surprise. He was a wizard in the kitchen, and my mom had no idea since everyone shushed. So, she also cooked a 3-course meal in honor of my dad's and my huge appetite. All I can say is that I've never eaten more in my life. The embodiment of gluttony. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.